As I mentioned when I covered either Somnium Files, I do love a good mystery, and while browsing through the Switch's eShop I came across the Casebook of Arkady Smith and thought, hey, I can solve mysteries in this, let's give it a go. I also noticed it was available on PlayStation 4 and PC as well, so I also picked up the game on PlayStation 4 for comparison. So from this point onwards, I'll note in the bottom right hand corner which console the footage is from. The Casebook of Arkady Smith is an open world adventure game where you as Arkady Smith investigate and solve mysteries around the city. The game is set in a futuristic city in the late 21st century, and due to rising crime rates, the city decided to form an organisation to keep the peace, known as City Security, or CitySec for short. CitySec was so successful that they now have control over the justice system and have almost become self-sufficient in doing so. But in the early days, because of how much crime there was, they would have city investigators go out and pass judgment, which sort of reminds me of a less radical version of the judges. However, unlike the judges who do the sentencing, and usually in a very gory manner, the city investigators determine who's guilty and report to CitySec who chooses the punishment. In recent years there's only a few investigators left, and Arkady Smith is the most well known of them. The game has 10 cases for you to solve with different motives and things Arkady needs to do in order to find the culprit. But is the game any good? Find out in The Good. I did like the variety of cases the game had and things you could do to catch the culprit. One case required me to open up filing cabinets and chests, with cards I'd picked up while investigating acting as the clue. Another got me to shoot a drone and investigate its flight recorder to find out who was operating it. The motives and cases were interesting enough, but sadly it's the only thing I really enjoyed about it. So we might as well get it out of the way with The Bad. While I did like the case variety, I didn't like just about everything else in the game. As you drive from place to place, both the Switch and PS4 version suffered from frame dips, with the Switch having pop-in issues as well given its hardware. But the one thing about driving in the game is the other drivers. Look, I'll put my hand up and I'm going to admit that I'm terrible at driving in games, but these drivers make me look like a saint. The cars in the game drive on whatever side of the road they feel like, and even change sides at intersections sometimes, causing them to crash into each other, or me. The game grades you on each case with S ranking available if you don't crash, drive too slowly, or hit anyone. But with cars all over the place, you have no idea how they're going to behave, and even getting hit once will lock out that S ranking. The controls when driving felt heavy, and even when Arkady is out of the car, the running animations don't look particularly great. Visually, while the city looks quite nice, everything in the game is just so dark. I get it, grunge future setting where it looks like it's just rained everywhere, sure, but it feels like the lights just don't work hard enough inside and your car headlights do jack all to help. The footage I've used for the review has been brightened up just to make it more visible, though I don't know how much that would help. It's a shame because one of the cases had so much potential with its use of lighting. The case has you navigate around an abandoned hotel that isn't marked on the map for a missing persons case, and the atmosphere I found would have worked so well if there was a psychological effect or even people hiding in the shadows and attacking you from them. But it ends just the same as the others. You find the culprit and report him to CitySec, case closed. In terms of gameplay, the game provides no tutorial on what to do, throwing you straight into Arkady's apartment. You can't leave until you find your ID card, and your gun more or less is only used for trivial things like opening a chest, a vent, or shooting a drone like I mentioned earlier. There's next to no music in the game, and it tends to only really play at random intervals, or if you complete a case. Some of the answers Arkady gives people in the game don't even make sense even when you try to comprehend it, and one case even had all the suspects saying the same thing and blaming one another for it. I saw the culprit for that 1 mile away. Everyone outside pretty much looked the same and are almost unidentifiable because of the lighting, and there's a lot of recycling of models for people that Arkady interacts with. Even the overall plot I had to look for so I could explain it in this review. It's only accessible in Arkady's apartment in the About section, which I thought would have been the game's credits. There is no story linking the cases together, and there's no ending as such, just the opportunity to replay the cases to better your score. Of course, with next to no story, there's no character development, and given just how some of the characters react to Arkady's responses, which are also non-existent, there's just a lot this game could have done better. But enough ranting, it's time for The Opinion. The way the game is, I regret thinking it was a great idea to get it for the Switch, beat it, and then torture myself further by getting it and beating it again for the PS4. The case variety and the city visuals were good, but the game to me had a lot of issues which I think held it back from being a great game. Nonetheless, the idea of the game did interest me enough to buy it twice, and Wobbly had made a game for the Commodore Amiga which piques my interest even more since I'm generally keen at checking things out on it. So if you happen to be watching this, let me know what that Amiga game was. For an indie game, I do appreciate the efforts despite how critical I've been about it, and hey, keep at it. While I might not have liked this game, it doesn't mean I won't be taking a look if anything else you make in future catches my eye, much like how this one did initially. So with that, it's time for my rating. I would give the Casebook of Arkady Smith the Ice Station Z figure out of 10. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next Infinite Backlog review. If you enjoyed today's review, feel free to check out some of our other videos and subscribe for more. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram and our Facebook page. Once again, thank you for watching.